A group of women involved here as volunteers felt the need to establish a fund for women who couldn't afford the services of the center. They started the Silent Samaritans. We hold an annual luncheon. The funds cover the expenses of a lot of individuals, a lot of women.
There are many women who just cannot afford to pay the full amount for counseling. They're in a difficult divorce, they're in a bankruptcy situation, they've been abused, they just don't have the money to be able to get the help they need.
There are hundreds of women right here in Lancaster County and their families who thank you for giving them the opportunity to heal and to grow.
The endowment was established when we realized that we wanted to make sure there was going to be a long-term effect for this great mission.
Hope and healing are the core of the center's mission, healing of emotions, of mind, of spirit, and also of relationships. Without hope, sometimes that can't happen. So I really see us as being in the business of restoring hope.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the very first virtual Silent Samaritan virtual event. My name is Kim Lemon. I'm a news anchor for WGAL, and I am also a Silent Samaritan. I am pleased to welcome each of you to the 2020 Silent Samaritan Celebration and Thanksgiving event. This is our 25th anniversary of the Silent Samaritan program, and even with all the changes and the pandemic, we have many reasons to celebrate and certainly to be thankful. This event truly is a celebration of women helping women, and even though we cannot be together in person this year, we hope that we can all still feel very connected. Each of you has something in common. You care about other people, you care about women, and through your financial support, you make a real difference in the lives of women in our community. There are hundreds of women and their families who thank you for giving them the opportunity to heal and to grow by making it possible for them to receive the counseling that they need. Thank you to each and every one of you for being a Silent Samaritan. Now, before we get started, as many of you know, the Samaritan Counseling Center hired a new executive director as Gerald Ressler retired this September. It is a tradition of the Silent Samaritans to welcome the executive director of the center to the luncheon when we have a luncheon. We did this with Jim Hanna and then with Gerald Ressler. And now I introduce to you Stephen Shedler. Steve?
Thank you, everyone, for joining in, and thank you for having me here this morning. It's truly an honor and a privilege. And thank you for your dedication to the Silent Samaritan mission, even in difficult times. And congratulations for reaching 25 years of women helping women. This was truly an accomplishment. And I know firsthand the impact of the Silent Samaritans. One of my very first clients at the center is participating because of your help. And I hope one day to meet many of you, even in person, to thank you for what you're doing and what you'll continue to do. But now, in honor of 25 years of Silent Samaritans, I have compiled an unabridged history of the Samaritan Counseling Center, which I will now read publicly for the very first time. 114 years ago, the Samaritan Counseling Center did...
You're done now.
Thanks, Steve. Maybe next year.
He's going to get in step with us soon enough. Thank you, Steve. It was really nice to meet you. Now, for all of you who are new to the Silent Samaritans this year, we welcome you. You have joined a remarkable group focused on helping other women who seek counseling, but are at a time and a place in their lives where they cannot afford it. We offer the support they need when they need it. And as we welcome women joining us for the first time, we also want to recognize the women who have been with us from the very beginning. The first Silent Samaritan Luncheon was held in 1996. And that year, 150 women became Silent Samaritans for the first time and raised just over $16,000 to help women in need. We celebrate our charter, Silent Samaritans, who began this wonderful movement 25 years ago. Thank you. And ladies, I am very excited to share with you some information. As individual Silent Samaritans, your generosity has been incredible. As a group, you are impacting the lives of women in extraordinary need. And even with all the changes this year, we are pleased to announce that over 290 women are participating today, and we have raised more than $45,500 so far this year. In the 25 years of the Silent Samaritan program, we have raised individual contributions of over $1.4 million. So let's give ourselves a round of applause. It seems like I'm alone here, but there are some people in front of me who are applauding at this instant. I would like to take a moment to recognize the members of the Silent Samaritan Luncheon Planning Committee who worked all year long to plan today's event through all the changing circumstances under the guidance of co-chairs Kathy Galatka and Judy Miller with Secretary Linda McDougall. All of the committee members are listed in your program, which you can now access on the website, but let me name them right now. So thank you to Michelle Atwater, Diane Brandt, Beth Crosby, Barb Frankel, Kathy Galatka, Louise Green, Shelley Gunzenhauser, Fran Hayward, Connie Jeff, Linda McDougall, Judy Miller, Ann Musser, Eileen Quinn, Brenda Walker, and Mary Young. They each contributed so much to the success of this event today, so we thank you. I would also like to invite our Silent Samaritan Planning Committee co-chairs, Kathy and Judy Miller, to say a few words of welcome.
Thank you, Kim, and welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us. Kathy, I'm taking this opportunity to say a special thank you to women on the Silent Samaritan Luncheon Committee. These ladies have worked hard to make sure that our virtual luncheon would be a success. We're so excited to be celebrating 25 years of women helping women. This is how it all started. 25 years ago, two special women, Linda Peacock and Alta Landis, recognized that there was a special need in our community. They reached out to other women to help find a solution.
Need is greater than ever. Job insecurity, or job loss of insurance, incredible stress, prolonged depression, and anxiety.
Our success proves that there is strength in numbers. Women working together can help each other.
So we know we will help more women than ever this year.
And that makes everything worth it.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Judy. And one of the reasons that our individual dollars are able to make such an impact in our community is because of the underwriting of many of our generous sponsors. Thanks to their sponsorship, the dollars we give to the Silent Samaritan Fund will go much further to help women in transition who need financial support or even counseling. You can see each of our sponsors' ads in today's program, which is on the Silent Samaritan event webpage. We would also like to thank and recognize each of our event sponsors supporting our mission of women helping women. Our special thanks this morning to our champion sponsors, Tiger's Eye, our supporting sponsors, Atwater Malik, Burt's Hess and Company, LLP, Groff Funeral and Cremation Services, Lancaster Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine, LLC, Matthew 25 Thrift Store, our giving sponsors, Moravian Manor and the Strasburg Railroad Company. Each of you is making a real difference in the lives of women in our community every day, so we thank you. I would like to just take a moment to reflect with each of you on the reason that we are all Silent Samaritans. The women and the children who seek counseling during difficulties and struggles, but who can't afford the counseling services they need, are the ones who benefit this morning. Being a Silent Samaritan, helping women who are struggling, gives us a special opportunity to have a positive impact in their lives, especially now when so many are struggling, of course, with the pandemic. I would like you to hear just from a couple of women who are a part of this special group, that is having such a huge impact in our community.
Hello. I became a Silent Samaritan donor 25 years ago, and I've remained a member because I saw over and over again the benefit of women going through tough times receiving affordable counseling. Whether it was loss of a job, divorce, grief, illness, paying for counseling services was one stress they did not need. How gratifying that 25 years later, through the generosity and work of many women, this small idea has grown to $1 million, and many women have received the benefit. One woman who used the fund during an unexpected job loss handed me a check one day. I showed a look of surprise, and she said, "Now I can give back to help someone else." That was an unexpected outcome. Being part of this mission has been a rich experience, and never more so than in the 2020 trials that families have experienced. Being part of a community of givers and receivers has inspired me to continue. Hopefully next year, we can gather around the lunch table again and give thanks together. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ginger Humphreys Robinson. I always look forward to attending the Silent Samaritan Luncheon. It's great to see friends and familiar faces and hear testimonials of women who have been served by the fund. And each time I attend, I pick up my name tag and it says founding member, and it takes me back to the first luncheon that was held in 1996. It was out on Oregon Pike at the Old Quality Inn, and there was a small group of women, and I wanted to learn more about the fund because my late husband, Jay Humphreys, was on the board of directors, and he talked about the Samaritan Counseling Center and what an important agency it was in the community to provide counseling for families and individuals. And little did I know that 6 months later, our family would be clients at the Samaritan Counseling Center. We had 2 young teenagers, and my husband had been recently diagnosed with brain cancer. And they were so helpful to guide us through that difficult time. And I was so appreciative. And I thought of the fund because I thought there were a lot of people who couldn't afford that counseling. And we were fortunate to be there and to afford the counseling, but there were so many who couldn't afford that and could benefit from the fund. So I continue to support the fund.
Today's event is very special because we are celebrating our 25th anniversary. The Silent Samaritan Fund is a unique fund that provides a message of hope to so many women who find themselves struggling with life's transition. The message of hope is what is being offered by Silent Samaritans. They heal their pain, it teaches them new ways to cope, it opens their eyes to new opportunities, and supports them and their families on their journey of growth. And our contributions to the Silent Samaritan Endowment ensure that the Silent Samaritans will continue many years into the future. And now I would like to introduce to you Diane Panchensky, who will lead us in a special invocation. Thank you, Diane. That was beautiful. And it was wonderful to look back over our past years of these Silent Samaritan events. It is now my great pleasure to introduce to you Rita Clark. As a young child growing up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, she developed a fascination for different cultures and a love for the spoken word. After working several years in the school districts of Philadelphia and also in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, she combined her passion for history, culture, teaching, and entertaining and turned it into a career in storytelling. She has given workshops in the art of storytelling and communicating through storytelling. She has shared stories at festivals, schools, churches, camps, universities, community events, corporations, and of course, private functions. Formerly the creative coordinator for Living the Experience, a spiritual Underground Railroad reenactment presentation here in Lancaster, Rita has also branched out into theater, acting in many local productions. She is a master storyteller, and she was honored to be the winner of the Grand Slam, where she earned the title of the Best Storyteller in Lancaster in 2019. Rita is blessed to have the opportunity to share her love for story with all of us who are willing to listen. Now today, Rita's presentation is entitled, You Are Not Alone, the importance of asking for help and placing yourself in a position to help others. Asking for help is very difficult for some women. Historically, women shoulder most of the responsibility for the emotional development of our children and even our communities. We need support to fulfill ourselves in this role, but in many situations and cultures, requests for aid come with condemnation, ridicule, and guilt. Rita will now share how she learned to overcome that stigma in doing what she does to help other women. Rita?
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, members of the Silent Samaritans, for having me come and speak to you today. It is my great pleasure to do so. When Diane Brandt asked me to speak for the Silent Samaritans Luncheon this year, she asked that I would speak, obviously, on the topic of women helping women. Specifically, a time in my life when I was helped by women. Now, as I thought about the times that I had received significant help from women, help that had actually impacted my life, I was surprised to find that there were very few times that I could recall when that had happened. In fact, there were only 2 times I could clearly recall. Now, this was very surprising to me because while the men in my life have been tremendous, it has been the women who have had the greatest impact. So I asked myself, why were there only 2 times I could think of? And as I thought about this, the answer became clearer. The 2 times I could recall receiving help were the 2 times I recalled asking for help. And that may sound simple, and I guess it is, but rather than solving anything, that kind of raised another question. Why had I only sought help 2 times to get through the difficult portions of my life? Surely there were more times when I needed help and could have asked. And thinking about the reasons why I never did, a pattern of behavior began to emerge in my mind or in my memory. Now, I'm not a statistician. I'm not a professional educator. I'm a storyteller. So let me tell you a little personal story. Though she passed away when I was about 6, I have vivid memories of my grandmother, my mom's mom, cooking Thanksgiving dinner. She fed the whole family, as I'm sure you have memories of that as well. She fed all 3 of her children and their families, which I'm a part of, plus cousins, aunts, uncles, distant relatives, family, neighbors. Everybody knew she would be cooking, and everybody came because my grandmother could cook. From about 10 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, she fed anyone and everyone who came to the door. No one left her home without either a full stomach or a full plate. She cooked all the food alone. Massive amounts of food that never ran out. And she never asked for help. She even refused to let anyone help her when they offered. Now, you could say she wanted to do it all, and that would be true. But I know that she was also expected to do it by herself. The old folks had a saying, handle your business. And one example of that was her doing all of the Thanksgiving cooking by herself, handling her business. My mom, for as long as I knew her, had health issues. She was in pain most of the time. Yet, unless you were close to her, you wouldn't have known it. She rarely mentioned it to other relatives and seldom let us who lived with her know the extent of her suffering. She worked outside the home when I was very young and became a stay-at-home mom when I entered elementary school. And as all of us know, being a stay-at-home mom means that you're at work 24/7, 365 days a year. Yet, no matter how much pain she was in, she never asked for help in taking care of her home or her children, and never missed any school or family event that she had to attend. She handled her business as she was expected to. Now, as a child, I remember hearing snippets of conversations at family gatherings concerning a particular relative who, the grown-ups said, couldn't handle life and was always whining about needing help or complaining about how hard things were for her. There were a lot of shaking of heads, and that woman, when referring to her, mishandling her life. Now, while I didn't fully grasp the meanings behind everything they spoke about, even in my young mind, I understood that whining, which is what the old folks called asking for help, was not what strong women did. And I was being raised to be a strong woman, as was every other black female child that I knew. So by the example of the women in my life, I knew what was expected of me. As I grew up and went out on my own, I reveled in the fact that I didn't need to ask anyone for help to do anything. I handled my business. Now, fast forward. I'm 34, married with a 4-year-old, and 6 months pregnant with my second child when the worst thing happens. I miscarry. Now, many of you understand what that's like, the loss you feel. When you're that far along and deliver your child, and look in the face of your child and recognize family in features that will never change, it unleashes a different kind of grief. For weeks after that, I would get up and see my husband off to work, take care of my daughter, take her to preschool on the days she went there, and go through the motions of taking care of the daily household tasks. Each day that passed, it became harder and harder just to get up. I thank God for having my daughter, because if it weren't for the need to care for her, I don't think I would have gotten up. Now, my husband knew that I was hurting, and he tried to help. But he was hurting too, and he didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I know now that I was depressed, but at that time, depression was not a word that I used for my life. All I knew was that I felt like I was hanging on to life by my fingertips, and I was losing my grip. So one day, I called my mom. Now, I don't mean to make that sound unusual. It was not. We talked all the time and saw each other multiple times a week. We were close. But on this day, the phone call was different. Not in content, but in weight. She listened to me talk about my day, the never-ending nature of laundry, what program I might have watched on the television the night before, the music I was listening to. In short, I talked to her about each and every mundane thing in my life. I talked to her for hours. The next day was a repeat of the previous day, and so was the day after that, and the day after that. This same scenario played out for weeks, day by day. I call her, talk about nothing of real importance. She listens, giving a few, yeah, and and ending, always ending the conversation with her saying, "You're going to be all right," before she hung up. Now, as I said, I did not recognize that I was suffering from depression. I just knew I was suffering, and Mom knew it too. And although we never mentioned the word depression or even the circumstances surrounding why I was calling every day, she knew I was begging for help, and she gave it the best way she could. She became my therapy, my means of healing, without ever offering advice or giving admonition, without ever talking down to me, without ever making me feel small. In talking with my mother, I never felt weak in character because she never made me feel weak. She treated me like I was just me, her daughter, a friend, a woman who needed to talk to her. She helped me through that very dark time by recognizing that I was asking for help and then giving that help. Now, it was in the aftermath of those talks that I realized something about myself. I realized that despite, or maybe because of, needing help, that I was still a strong woman. And I realized that strong women ask for help. Now, in the years after that, many blessings happened in my life. We were blessed with another child who grew strong and healthy. She's 25 now. My husband was able to go back to school, fulfilling a dream that he had, and after much encouragement from family and friends, I became a storyteller. Over the years, I have made it my mission to tell stories that have a purpose. I share stories that I hope help people understand that we need one another to make this world flow properly. I tell many stories that begin with the essence of the African proverb, "It takes a village," and then expand on what kind of village it takes. In the stories I present, many of the women find their strength by either seeking or giving the help that's needed to solve the problem that life thrusts upon them. I try to show that there should be no stigma in asking for help and no condescension when giving that help. And whether they are asking or giving, the women in those stories are still considered strong. Now, since I became a storyteller, I've had people, mostly women, tell me how the stories have touched them, impacted their lives in some cases. Many of the stories have reminded them of a particular time in their lives. They have helped them to know that they aren't alone in how they felt or what they went through or are going through. When I began to prepare this, and I spoke to friends and family about this topic, the stigma of asking for help, every woman that I spoke to, regardless of race or ethnicity or social standing, understood the feelings that I was talking about. They have had some of the same experiences with being raised to shoulder the trials of life alone. They have been victims of ridicule or indifference, oftentimes from other women, if they dared ask for help when circumstances became dire. We need to change that. We as women should not allow or contribute to the struggles that we face as women. There are enough things that beat us down without us doing that to each other. Where we can, we should erase those feelings of fear or shame from being the norm. As each generation comes, there should be fewer and fewer women who feel this burden, who share these feelings, who have these experiences. Now, the stories I tell can provide help and healing to other women because of this shared experience. They let those who hear them know that they are not alone. They learn they can have a village too. Sharing stories has also given those who are in a position to give that helping hand to someone who might need it the opportunity to give that help, to be that help. Now, you may ask how telling stories can facilitate those kinds of changes or opportunities for change. I was once told that telling stories was meaningless, that no one's life could be changed by doing that it was a trivial thing. I was told that by a man, so just, keep that in mind. But let me tell you, this is what I found. A good story causes people to talk to each other. And in talking to each other, we learn what each of us is going through, and we find our commonality. And if our hearts are where they should be, when we find that commonality, we act on it. When we experience the bond that comes from seeing the things that we share, We know we found our village, or we are the village. I'd like to think that being a means through which that can happen is part of what I'm supposed to do in this life. I was helped so that I can help. So, that's my little story. Lovely people, we are living in a time when our need to help and support one another has never been greater. Yet our ability to do that very thing requires more creativity and sacrifice than it has before. If you doubt that, the past 8 months and the virtual nature of this luncheon is proof of that truth. However, that fact should not deter our efforts to support one another. Women have always been the people to move society forward while lifting everyone up. Check your history. We have always been the engine for any significant social change or improvement. We have done it by recognizing the problems, working to find the solutions, implementing and maintaining those solutions once they're found. Asking, giving, supporting. That's the village. Let's continue. Let's not wait until we fall apart to ask, and let's not wait until we're asked before we give. Let's be that village of strong women. Let's actively put ourselves in positions to help each other. Let's remove all stigma and condemnation associated with asking for the help we need to make ourselves and our world better. Let's handle our business together. Peace and blessings.
Beautiful, Rita. Thank you. And welcome into the fold of the Silent Samaritans. That was a splendid message. Thank you. And now I would like to give you a quick update on the Silent Samaritan Endowment that you know about. As many of you know, the Samaritan Endowment is a fund set aside for the long-term benefit of the Silent Samaritan mission, women helping women. The principal of the fund remains invested for the future, but we generally use the income generated by the endowment to support new and expanded ways to support women. And this year, the endowment generated about $4,000 in income. With all the changes brought about by the pandemic, the center was focused on providing services to as many people as possible. So this year, the income will be reinvested into the endowment so that we'll have even more to distribute next year. And now I would like to share another message with you from a Silent Samaritan before we close.
Good morning. I'm Kit Slough and have been involved with the Samaritan Center for many years. Today would have been that Monday that we all look forward to, the Samaritan Center Luncheon. We had friends, we had hugs, we had Kim Lemon, and we had an inspirational speaker, always a woman, of course. We loved this, but now we have it another way, and we're still together in spirit and in love, and caring for each other and for other women who are not here. Many of those women have issues and fears and troubles just like we do. The difference is they don't have the resources to seek help. The joy is we can help them, and we have helped them for many years, and we will continue to. Thank you for all you have done, and for what I know we as Silent Samaritans will continue to do.
Joining us today, and it will be our hope and our prayer that we can all be together next year in person. And while this is the close of our luncheon together, please stay for just a few moments, maybe with your friends, people with you, while we share a testimonial about the importance of counseling for women and the important work that you do as part of the Silent Samaritan Fund. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for your generous gifts to help women in need, and we wish you a beautiful, peaceful day.
30-some years ago, I can't believe it, I was a stay-at-home mom with 3 elementary school-age children, and it was a sweet life. We had a little Cape Cod in a sweet neighborhood, and we were right down the street from the schools so they could walk. It really was lovely when I think about it these days. The other piece was there was alcoholism and codependency in our home. And unfortunately, it broke it open and broke it apart. I sought counseling for both of us. I wanted it desperately, but my husband decided, sadly, to leave. My children and I, we were all so devastated. But I had this deep, deep desire that somehow I could go to counseling, that there was a way that I could break the cycle of dysfunction, generations of family dysfunction. I really believed that there was some way that things could be different, better. But I was also in a situation that's very common to other women like me at that time, and even today. And that is, I was so broke. I wanted counseling, but with the breadwinner having left and no means as of yet, I didn't know how I could afford it. I really couldn't, but I really wanted it. But I was so fortunate. One day I was at the bank, and this woman, I was talking to her a little bit. I'm sure I was complaining up a storm. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And she said, woe is me. And she said, do you know that there's this agency that offers help for people like you? You might want to go check it out. They help displaced homemakers. That's what we were called, displaced homemakers. Oh my gosh, it seems a million years ago. But I must say, that agency, very much like the Silent Samaritans, they offered me a lifeline, an opportunity to unpack all the understandings of love that was handed to me in my family of origin. That love was conditional and manipulative and controlling, and it was power over. And we know it's none of those things. It was that place that I learned to grow and to heal and thrive, and I wanted more and more and more. And what it did, more importantly too, was lead to me doing the real work as a victim of childhood sexual abuse. And there I learned that I was not what was done to me. Do you hear that? I am not what was done to me. That is so life-giving for men and women and their families, to remove that shame from their hearts. So today, when I think of the gifts of counseling, the word that comes to me is freedom. I always have a freedom to choose to respond, not react, but respond out of a place of centeredness, a place of caring, a place of love and compassion. I don't always do it, but I have a choice today, right? And the other thing I think of is this quote from Cheryl Strayed. And that is, it's not the family that created you. It's the family you get to create. So thank you. Thank you for helping other women like me. You will never know how it ripples out into the world to bring healing and wholeness to so many. So thank you very much.